The Pickpocket and the Assassin. Would you like a chance at revenge? Nilla forced her expression to remain impassive, while her heart surged. Her boss couldn't possibly be offering. Not yet, it was too soon. She was too useful still. She raised a brow and drawled, "Who doesn't?" She ticked her chin at the ledger under Boss Tycho's fingers on the desk. "Who's the mark?" Boss Tycho smiled coldly. "Ah, Nilla. Beautiful, deadly, and straight to the point. You're my favourite." She smiled stiffly. "I bet you say that to everyone." He gave a bark of laughter and shook his head as though he found her endearing. "I have a job that needs your unique mix of skills." Of course he did. That's why she was there. Tycho did like the sound of his own voice. She wished he'd simply turn the ledger around and let her read it. "Details?" "A Suderanian scholar. Arrived a couple of days ago. He'll be invited to the Archpater's reception at the week's end." He met her gaze, eyes cold. He should never be seen again after that night. A Suderanian scholar. The vein of excitement thrumming through her wobbled. Suderanian? Good. A scholar? Unlikely. Tycho continued. "Malik Al-Fayal, 23 years old." Disappointment smothered hope. He was too young. "A scholar? You need me for a scholar?" "He's an important man. He deserves the services you provide." Nilla wanted to puke. Tycho blinked and changed tack. "You're the best. Our client paid for the best." His compliment slid off her like grease. "He resides at 12 Whetstick Lane. You know where that is?" Nilla knew every inch of her home city. "I know it." Boss Tycho set a small, bulging purse on the desk and pushed a square of card towards Nilla. "That's your invitation to the Archpater's reception." His lips twisted. "I would tell you to have a good time, but I know it's Malik who'll have a good time. It's just work for you, isn't it?" Nilla went hot, praying her face didn't give away her emotions. "Just a job," she agreed, calm and firm. They were all just jobs until she truly got a chance at revenge. She took the purse, holding her advance payment, but when she reached for the invitation, Tycho pressed it down with 2 fingers, keeping it where it was. She looked up. "Make me proud." He smiled, cold and avaricious. Prying the invitation off the desk, she tugged it out of his grasp. "I'll take care of him," she promised. "I know you will. Always reliable, that's my Nilla." She slipped the invitation into a pocket. She didn't want to be Tycho's anything, but she didn't have an alternative. Not yet. Malik Al-Fayal wasn't revenge. He was just practice. Poor sod. As she stepped into the street, blinking against the low sunshine, Leah peeled away from the building opposite and fell into step beside her. "I thought you had work to do." Nilla had left her housekeeper up to her elbows in laundry. But Leah was a law unto herself, and it was a fine day, too fine to waste on housework. Leah smiled sunnily and wrinkled her nose. "My job is to support you in whatever you need." Nilla let herself be guided down the street by Leah's arm in hers. "And what do you suppose I need today?" "You need a distraction from what Tycho's just asked you to do." That was true, so Nilla let it pass. Leah could be managing, but she was the best friend Nilla had. "What distraction did you have in mind?" "You have money to spend, and the harvest fair is in full swing. Sounds like a match made in heaven." Leah's grin prompted Nilla to smile, her heart lightening. But that didn't mean she was a complete fool. "The advance on my pay is to ensure I plan the job properly. Tycho didn't hand it over for you to fritter it away on trinkets and roast nuts." Leah slapped her hand against her heart with a gasp. "Fritter? Me? Perfidy! Slander!" Nilla shoved her shoulder. Leah dodged, speaking through her grin. "I'm hurt! Hurt, I tell you! Wounded! Heart sore! You know what I love about you?" Nilla asked, cutting through Leah's hyperbole. Leah cocked a brow, her smile as cheeky as ever. "I'm sure you find it hard to pick just one thing." "It's your understated stoicism," Nilla said. "Your calm stolidity in all circumstances. I don't know how you do it, really." Leah leaned against her arm. "Natural talent and dedicated practice," she said offhand. "Are you hungry? Because I haven't cooked anything, so we have to check out the fair if you don't want to starve." She directed their steps toward the city square where stalls lined the pavements and buskers entertained on every corner. "I feel ambushed," Nilla complained mildly. "Nah, what you're feeling is hunger. We'll get apple dumplings." Nilla smiled and allowed herself to be dragged onwards. "They won't be as good as yours." Flatterer. Leah leaned against her as she walked, smiling into her face. Have I mentioned you're my favouriteest employer in the whole entire big wide world? I'm glad to hear that. Nilla guided them around a pair of children running into their path. They'd nearly reached the fair and the streets were growing crowded. Her mood lifted. Leah was right. She could use a distraction. Not that she'd let Leah know she'd read her right. The woman had a big enough head as it was. Malik slotted the last of his books onto the shelf and exhaled in satisfaction. He turned to survey his new surroundings. The house was small, perfect for a single man. He'd refused offers of either servant or companion to accompany him on his trip. He wanted to immerse himself in his new country for as long as he remained here, cut loose his ties to home. His gaze shifted to the bedroom across the hall. That too was small but well set up. The bed was comfortable. His lips curved. His tortoiseshell cat, Nissan, had given the bed her seal of approval, curled to a small fluffy circle in its middle. He hadn't travelled entirely alone, but Nissan was a special case. He'd never been separated from her since he'd found her soaking wet and mewling pathetically on his doorstep as a kitten. The idea of putting the sundering sea between them was unthinkable. She hadn't enjoyed the journey, but she was happy now they'd arrived. He drifted to the bed, perched on its edge and stroked the curve of Nissan's spine. She gave a murmur of satisfaction, stretched, then recurled. Malik agreed with her contentment. Life was good. He was an envoy of the Sudaranian court on a diplomatic mission. He smoothed down his robes, revelling in the sense of pride that hadn't yet worn off. He'd sent notes to both Prince Akil's palace and Archpater Pharaoh's office, requesting a meeting. There was little he could do until he received a response. But that didn't mean he had to sit around and wait. He cast a glance at his books and the desk and chair that provided the other furniture in his study. He could track down the city's library for a start. Beyond Nissan and the bed, he could just make out the garden through the bedroom's wide window. The house was situated in a quiet, sleepy part of the city. That would never do. He needed some life around him. And he definitely needed to find the library. Leaving Nissan, Malik changed his slippers for outdoor boots and headed north towards the square he'd spotted as he'd been escorted from the harbour side to his lodgings 2 days earlier when he'd arrived. He walked briskly to drive away the chill. His robes were intended for a hotter climate than Lindumia's. He breathed in cool air with an edge of dampness, revelling in the difference to all he was used to back home. As the streets grew busier, he slowed. It must be market day, or some Lindumian celebration. Cheerful music, delicious scents and colourful sights assailed him on all sides. He smiled as he drank in the scene. 2 women walked by on the other side of the road, eating a pastry that trailed the scent of honey and cinnamon. The one on the left was pale, clearly Lindumian by blood. The other carried darker skin, declaring an ancestry from Sudarain or its neighbours. Malik smiled, watching the women link arms and continue on their way. Sudarain and Lindumia united. It was a good omen for the closeness he was tasked to achieve. His stomach rumbled. He looked along the street, wondering where the women had found their sustenance. He took a few steps, then stopped, eye-catching on a stall set up on the far side of the road. Books! Malik crossed the road. Food could wait. He wanted to see what treasures he might add to his shelves. Who is he, then? Leah threw roasted nuts into her mouth with absolute disregard for the idea of offering them first to the woman who'd paid for them. Who's who? The taste of apple and cinnamon clinging to her lips, Nilla was happy to indulge her friend. Leah rolled her eyes and chewed until her cheeks no longer bulged. Who's your job? Nilla glanced around instinctively, although no one was paying them any attention, all too busy enjoying the fare. Sudaranian scholar, fresh off the boat. Handsome? Leah's tone was lascivious, and Nilla fought the shiver that wanted to creep down her spine. Couldn't say. Doesn't matter. I'll scope out his address later. She eyed Leah deliberately. While you finish the laundry. Leah pouted and glanced around, probably looking for something to distract Nilla from expecting a day's work from her. If your target is as green as that one, you'll have an easy job. Which one? Nilla turned, trying to follow Leah's gaze, but the fair was too crowded. She spotted several faces darker than her own, most of whom wore Sudaranian robes. Him, Leah nudged, directing her attention to a bookstall. A plump young man in his early 20s stood beside the stall, engrossed in a volume. He wore a vibrant silk robe, and if that had left her uncertain of his social status, his high-shaved hair confirmed that he was a man of some importance back home. Nilla watched the play of emotions on his face as he scanned the page. "He's not green. He's just enjoying his book." Leah made a rude noise. "He's so green he's virtually sprouting," she argued. "I think he came here straight off the boat. Even I could kill him if I had to. Watch." "No!" Before Nilla could hold her back, Leah sashayed out of reach, hips swinging as she crossed the street. Nilla was relieved she didn't walk straight up to the Suderanian man, but her heart continued to pound. Leah could sow chaos like no one else she knew. Instead of speaking to the Suderanian man, Leah feigned interest in the wooden carvings on the stall next door, setting her back to that of her target. Nilla half-turned and pretended she was fascinated by a flute player performing in the middle of the street. She continued to watch Leah from the corner of her eye. Her maid flirted with the stall-holder, picking up candlesticks and penknives, asking questions and then setting the items back down. The Suderanian man continued to be engrossed in his book. Nilla found herself wanting to know what it was to command the man's attention so thoroughly. His head was tilted down so she couldn't make out his expression. Was he reading about history or mathematics? The lives of the saints, perhaps? Her lips twitched. He didn't look the sort of man to read scurrilous or silly fiction. As she watched, the Suderanian turned the page. As he continued to read, his lips curved in the slow smile. Nilla's guts twisted. She might have read the man wrong. He didn't look so serious now. Perhaps he would read tall stories after all. Leah stepped away from the stall, and Nilla's fanciful imaginings vanished as she focused. What was the woman up to now? Chattering cheerfully to the stall-holder, her maid took a step back, looking as though it were entirely by chance that she bumped against the Suderanian man. Startled into looking up from his book, Nilla caught a glimpse of warm brown eyes as he stepped out of Leah's way, lips moving in what she'd wager was an apology for standing in one place and making his toes available to be trodden on. Leah beamed and sauntered away. By the time she'd rejoined Nilla, Leah was grinning like a cat served cream. "I let him live." She opened her palm to reveal a money pouch. "But I lightened his purse for him. He was taking too long to buy a book. Clearly doesn't need it himself." Nilla rolled her eyes. "Don't I pay you enough?" Leah tossed the pouch in the air and caught it again. "This was just for fun. I told you, green as grass. He had no idea he should even be wary in a crowd like this." Nilla felt a pang. For people like her, and Leah, and Boss Tycho, innocent people existed only to be exploited. "Give it back." The words came out without thought. What did she care? She thought any trace of empathy with ordinary folk had long since been expunged. But here it was, rushing through her at the idea that this newly arrived Suderanian bookworm would be welcomed to the country by having his pocket picked, and for fun, not even by a starving beggar who needed coin. Leah grinned and lifted a shoulder, throwing a glance back at the oblivious reader. "He can come get it if he fancies his chances." Nilla pinched her elbow. "I mean it. Give it back." Leah met her gaze, frowning. "What do you care?" Which was exactly the question Nilla couldn't answer. "It's a bad omen," she said. Before Leah could protest, she added, "And I don't want negative attention. Someone cries thief, and then guards are running around, and everyone's fun is spoiled." "He's not paying attention," Leah pointed out, tilting her head to where he'd returned to his book, blissfully unaware of his loss. "We can be long gone." "Even so. Boss Tycho will be furious if I mess this up." Leah's frown deepened. "You'll mess up your job because I pickpocketed a random Suderanian? We shouldn't draw attention to ourselves. Give it back." Something in her tone got through. Leah wrinkled her nose and gave a sniff, turning her back on Nilla. She stalked back towards the stall, and Nilla felt a moment of panic that she might hand the pouch directly to the bookworm, admit to what she'd done, and bring the attention Nilla didn't want cascading over them. She didn't do that. Leah wasn't stupid. Level with the man, she stopped with a cry, stooping to snatch something from the ground. "Sir, is this yours?" She opened her hand to the bookworm, just as she'd done to Nilla a moment earlier. "I think you dropped it." Her mark looked surprised, patted a pocket where he clearly expected the pouch to be. "How clumsy of me." His voice carried clear across the street, warm and melodic. "Thank you so much." Leah smiled flirtatiously. Nilla's chest tightened. No attention. Could she have been any more clear? "You should be careful, sir. There are always pickpockets at places like this. Guard your coin." Thank you, I will." The pouch vanished back into her pocket. "Have you just arrived in Lindumia?" Nilla suspected the man wanted nothing more than to get back to his book, but Leah was determined to be paid in attention if she was denied money. The man smiled, friendly and open. "Does it show? I arrived 2 days past." "Welcome!" Leah leaned close. Nilla found her ears straining to hear. "If you'd like someone to show you around, just say the word. I'd be happy to help." Nilla's teeth clenched. She was sure Leah would be happy to give him more than directions. But what was it to her? If Leah wanted to flirt, or even take this stranger to bed, she could do as she pleased, provided he was willing. It was none of Nilla's business. Turning on her heel, she started towards home. Leah could please herself, but Nilla didn't intend to stand and watch. She had a job to plan. "Hey, hey!" She'd only gone a few steps when Leah caught her up. "What's the hurry?" "I have work to do. You stay if you like. I don't want to spoil your fun." Leah linked arms and threw a glance back the way she'd come. "Bah, he's too green for me. And not tall enough for my tastes. I'll stick with you." "I'm honoured." Leah patted her arm. "Know your worth. I'd sooner spend time with you than some boring Suderanian. At least you wouldn't let me pick your pocket." "You do that every day," Nilla replied. "I do not. I work hard for every penny." Yeah, I'm a beastly mistress. Go tell it to the bookworm. He might care." "I never said you're beastly," Leah assured her. "You're all right." "High praise indeed." "Well, I mean, until I find a better job, of course." "Oh, I consider myself warned." They turned down the street that led home. "Don't trouble yourself too much," Leah promised. "The dreadful day I'll leave you is probably far away. I have to help you plot an assassination first." "I can do that on my own," Nilla replied. Leah pouted. "I can help? Just because I didn't kill that one doesn't mean I couldn't kill a man. I so could." Nilla smiled. Leah would never kill a man with her bare hands, but she absolutely made Nilla's job more bearable. "I'm sure you could. Shall I suggest that to Boss Tycho?" Leah paused, as though actually considering the offer. "Nah," she said eventually. "I wouldn't want to spoil your fun." Nilla's smile froze. What she did wasn't fun. She remembered Tycho offering her revenge. It wasn't that either. It was just necessary. And sometimes she wished with all her heart that it wasn't. That was The Pickpocket and the Assassin by Katy Haye. Thanks for listening.